So today I want to share with you my favorite websites that I use on a regular basis to research my stocks and just get a better understanding of what's happening with my investments and make smarter decisions in the process. So most of the websites are actually free to use. Of course, some of them also have a paid plan attached to it if you wanted to upgrade. And that's why I'm going to segment the video into the free websites first. And then the second part will be the freemium model, so to say, basically websites that you can use free. But if you want to get most out of it, you can upgrade to the pay plan. Now you may ask yourself, why do I need so many different websites? That's a good question, right? You don't have to use them. It's just something that I like for myself because each of them offers me a slightly different angle. And that's like reading the news, right? Because if you read one news story from one website, they have their own point of view about a particular news story. That's why I like to read different news. I even read news in different languages, which I speak, and that way I have a different perspective on things and can make my own truth, so to say. And the same is true when it comes to investing, because just by looking at the one website, you might get a slightly biased view. Now, obviously, numbers don't lie, but still, the way they portray it and what they focus on could be one thing. If you go to other websites, which I'll show you, they can tell you a whole different story. So I think it's very important to look at the number of them. You don't need to necessarily look at all of them, but some of them once in a while, especially if you want to start investing into a particular stock or add a new position into a portfolio, I think those websites can be really powerful and useful for you. So with this, let's start looking at some of the free options out there that you can start making use of. So let's kick things off with probably one of the most famous and known one. If you look for any stocks online on Google, probably the first page you will come across is Google Finance. And honestly, I used to use them much more in the past. It's very clean, very simple, and that's exactly the problem. For me, it's too simple in many ways. If, for example, I want to go into Apple, I want to learn more about it, it will pull up some really basic information. But again, maybe you don't want to be overwhelmed with information, and then it can be a good source for you. You get some very basic insights into the stock, how it's been doing, the percentage change of the stock over time. So if that's all you need, that's great and probably enough for you. Some of the top news, not too many actually. I wish, especially for Google, they would serve you more news, but again, they keep it very minimalist and simple. The income statement, you can see a few graphs over here you can change. So yeah, that's really all there is to it. So that could be a first starting base. But honestly, over the years, I moved away from it. It used to be better, but now for me, it's a little bit too simplistic. So in my eyes, there are better options out there. Next website we can look at is Yahoo Finance. And honestly, for me, it's definitely more powerful than Google Finance. It gives you more insights and a bit more details into the stock. So for me, I actually prefer that, to be honest. And yeah, you could even track your portfolio over here, which I used to do. Now I have a better option for that. I'll show you later on. As you can see over here, you have some of the similar insights. And once again, most of the website will start showing you the graph, of course, so you understand what's happening, how the stock developed, etc. But one of the small things, which, I really don't like, if, for example, I update the time interval, I want to see immediately how much percentage it went up or down. For example, if I want to see the last 5 years, how much did it go up? Now I would have to actually calculate it from 187 to 43 and see the difference over here. But I want to see right away the price change reflected over here. So that's one of the drawbacks why I don't like the graphic, the charting too much. They do also have a pay plan, but I think here you really don't need to pay because you get pretty much most of the insights on the free plan. Once again, you have all the data over here. You can really drill in. One of the good things over here, what I like, is the charting feature. And for example, you could compare Apple with some other stocks. So for example, let's compare Apple to Microsoft. And then you change the color if you wanted to. You put it into red over here. And then you can see over a 5-year period. And you can see the difference. Here you can see, of course, the percentage. For example, Microsoft over 5 years grew by 289% versus Apple by 340. So that's really an easy way to get a better insights into what happened. You get a bit of insights as per when they paid a dividend, etc. So that's pretty nice. You have some conversations and you get a better insights into, what people are talking about. Then some statistics here as well. A lot of more numbers. Numbers don't lie, and they make it very visible and very clearly presentable. So yeah, you don't have to pay for that, which is good because some websites even charge you for that. So I think that's really cool that they make it available for free. Historical data, which is not something I go in myself, but if you wanted to and like the numbers, you could have that over here. You can even export them. If you wanted to make your own charting analysis, what have you, you can do that as well. Profile is basically company profile, a little bit of who are the management executives, where they base, a brief description in case it's a new company you're not familiar with, and that might be useful as well. Financials over here, once again, you can really break it down, have all the numbers on an annual basis, quarterly basis. So, if you like numbers, you'll definitely find a lot of the things over here. Analysis, that's quite interesting as well, where you have some earnings estimates. Again, I'm not somebody who looks at earnings, but I still take it as one of the pieces of the puzzles when I make my investment decisions. decisions. Because for me, I really want to read across all the different investment pages and then make my own decisions. And some of those estimates obviously can be useful when you look at it over here. The same with the recommendation trend. You can see here, if everything is green and there's strong buy recommendations. Now, again, I wouldn't just blindly follow that, but at the same time, obviously, it gives me peace of mind to potentially make investing decisions. But if everything is red and sell, then I wouldn't necessarily not buy it, but I would have to do more deep dive as to why they recommend not buying it. So again, take it with a grain of salt, but it is just an indicator for you to kind of either investigate further or not. The price analyst targets also kind of what was the low price over the last 52 weeks, the high price where it is right now, and what the average analyst prediction is over there. So yeah, once again, some nice insights over there. Holders is quite interesting. Some websites make it very difficult to know who are the holders, and this I quite like in Yahoo Finance, probably one of the nicer ways to see it. You can see who are the major holders, and that's quite interesting because you want to know who's actually holding the stock, right? So here you can see the top institutional holders, and how else could it be? Vanguard, BlackRock, some of the biggest ETF managers and money managers in the world obviously have also one of the biggest percentage. They own 8%, 6% together. 15% of Apple is owned by these two big companies. I mean, that's really huge. And that's why I always say, invest into the S&P 500. If you do that either through BlackRock or Vanguard, you will be owning Apple that way. Then the top mutual fund holders. So these are basically the ETF funds over here from those companies. Vanguard, as I said, iShares is from BlackRock. So you can see various popular ETFs that own the company. You can also go into inside roster, and then you can see who's actually owning from within the company. So you can see, for example, Tim Cook, obviously, he has how many shares, his most recent transactions. Was it a sale? Was it a buy? That's also interesting to know. If all the inside people are selling, again, that might make you think maybe the stock is quite high. They know that, they capitalize on it, and then maybe later, once the stock price drops a little bit, they will buy more shares again. So they're obviously inside, and they probably know much better than we will ever know. So insider transactions, you can click into that and see, how many purchases, how many sales. Well, actually, still not bad. More purchases than sales, so that's good to see. And yeah, you can just get an idea of what is happening over there. And lastly, sustainability. In case that's interesting for you, you can also get a sneak peek into that. So overall, really a good website. Definitely, I recommend you. If you don't want to pay for any website, that really gives you a good global perspective on things that you should be knowing about a stock. Then the next website I quite like for reading news and just staying on top of things, what the markets are doing, is CNBC. I quite like it. Again, some people might say it's a little bit biased, but that's why I read different websites, so I get different perspectives on things. And yeah, just have a glance. I usually read it on my phone, on the go, just to kind of know what's happening. But once again, obviously, you could also do a deep dive into the stock, which I don't really use it much for. But if I wanted to, I just pop in over here, Apple, it pulls it up over here and get a bit of deeper insights into the company. Again, I mostly use it for the news component, but you could do a little bit of research over here as well. You can also track your own portfolio, add it to the watch list. So there are a couple of things that you can be doing. Ownership as well, you can see over here, that's good. So quite a few websites actually have it, even actually quite nicely presented over here, which is free of charge once again, who are the biggest owners and so on. So actually not too bad. Maybe I should be using this a little bit more, but yeah, as I said, there are so many options out there. I'm not actually using every single of the websites on a daily basis, but as I said, it's still nice to get a different views onto things, and you have to see what resonates and works for you. Another great website I like for news and just becoming a smarter investor is Morningstar.com. So they have some really cool news, and it's really geared towards investors. So they always come up with, the top 5 dividend stocks for the month of February or the best ETFs to buy right now. So it's a little bit less the daily news that's happening in the world, but more sort of stock investing related news, stock ideas and recommendations. And yeah, I like to just scroll probably once a day at least to see what's happening. And I quite like the website. They do have a paid component as well, but probably on the free plan, you get most of the things you need to know. From here, once again, you can just look up any stock, and they also give you good insights on that if you wanted to. So yeah, once again, the graph over here, you see right away, I would like to click around and change the time interval. That's just not so easy over here. So that's why I don't like it for that. Now, obviously you could click into charts and then get a bit more deeper analysis over there. But for me, that's then again, too complicated, right? It looks a little bit too cumbersome and I don't really like how it's displayed. So yeah, again, if it works for you, great. For me, it's not the most visually appealing one. You could compare here price versus fair value. So if that is relevant for you, that's great. Obviously, some of the numbers are behind the paywall. If you wanted more insights, you would obviously have to pay for that. Dividends, not many sites even mention dividends. And as I'm a dividend growth investor, for me, that's a very important tab to look at, obviously. So yeah, here you can get a better insights into dividends. But once again, I think there are way better websites out there that provide much more information on the dividends, which I think is a really big component. So I'm always surprised that a lot of companies are not really paying that much attention towards dividends. Right, moving on to the next website. It's called Wallmine. And honestly, it's a really powerful website. Not the prettiest, but it gives you a lot of information for free, which other websites hide behind the paywall. So for example, if we look up Apple, you just put the / put the ticker symbol in here, and then look it up, and you will see, boom. I mean, it's a lot of information. And as I said, most of it is not behind the paywall. So if you don't mind this overload of information, then you can really get some good insights out of it. Basically all the information I've shown you previously, but here now on a one dashboard, and you have it all. Basically, as I said, most of it is shown. You have some nice graphs as you hover over them. You can see all the insights over there. So yeah, really powerful website actually, which is really quite nice. And as I said, other websites are charging you for it. It's just a little bit clunky and a lot to take in. So if you're a beginner investor or you just want something easy on the go, it may not be for you. But if you don't mind it, honestly, you can find a lot of valuable insights over here. I even like that they report on the day. You can see here, go back by the day, if it was a red day, why it was red. You can see the information based on that. So you can really understand how the market is responding to certain news, right? Or vice versa. It depends how you look at it. But yeah, really, really interesting. I quite like it. Honestly, once in a while, I definitely log into here and get some valuable information out of it. The next website is called Dataroma. And once again, really nothing visually appealing, but it's something very unique that I like to look at. And I've shown you in previous videos why I use it, because here you can basically follow public filings of famous investors. So in the US, there is a rule that big investors, they have to actually publicly declare their investments. Now, obviously, it's not live in the moment, so it might be a couple of weeks later, but that way you can really see what some of the biggest investors in the world are doing with their money. For example, just go into super investors and then start looking up some of the smartest people and richest people out there and see what they do with their money. For example, I could go and look for Mr. Warren Buffett, of course, one of the greatest investors the world has ever seen. And then I see his portfolio over here, click into it, and boom, I will be able to see his most recent buys and sells. And you can see over here right away his portfolio, what he's having in his portfolio, as well as any changes. So you can see, for example, Chevron, which is something he was owning before, he reduced his position by 10%. The same with HP, which honestly, I was quite surprised when he bought it. I was never a fan of it. I looked into it, I didn't like it. So now he sold out of it. So nice to see that we're on the same page there. So you can see quite a few positions that he reduced his position in, but at the same time he added some. For example, he bought Liberty Media shares. He also bought Sirius and Atlanta. Most of them I haven't really heard of. So if I'm interested in that, I could start looking it up, do my own research, and got inspired by his purchase buys. Now, it doesn't mean you have to buy everything, the super investors are doing, but it just gives you an idea, right? If you wanted to buy a specific company, maybe go on here and you see all the big guys selling that company. For example, I could look up who is buying and selling Apple. So once again, let's pop in Apple over here. And yeah, quite interesting. Once again, I could go through, who was buying, who was selling. So again, if you wanted to buy a company and all the super investors are dumping that stock, well, you have to ask yourself, are you much smarter and know more than the super investors? That would be food for thought. But that's why I like to, once again, cross-read across different websites and get a better insight. Just because you're on Yahoo Finance and everybody says buy, but then you go onto Dataroma and see all the experts and super investors selling, there's a bit of a mismatch and something for you to analyze more deeply. And the next website I usually look at is Companiesmarketcap. Now, that's just for me to kind of stay on top of what's happening and who are the most valuable companies in the world. I find it interesting. I don't really do too much stock research on here specifically, but just for example, asking yourself, what is currently the most valuable company in the world? Just go over here, click on global ranking, and boom, you see it right away. Number one is Microsoft, ahead of Apple. And it used to be the opposite for many years. Apple was the most valuable company in the world. And hopefully one day it'll come back, followed by Saudi Aramco, which maybe many of you never actually heard about, right? So you can see really all those various companies over here. And for example, I could go assets by market cap. So that includes all the assets. You will see right now, obviously, gold is the most valuable one thing that you can buy in the world. 13 trillion. Microsoft is actually not that far away from it. If it 5x from here, it will technically be more valuable than all the gold together in the world, which is quite mind-boggling to think about. But you can see also over here, then silver next, we have Bitcoin. Right now, if I look at all the values, Bitcoin is already 11th place in the world, and the price is arguably quite low at the moment. If that continues to increase, it could easily be one of the top 10 most valuable things and assets in the world. So yeah, quite like that. You can sort by countries, see what are the most valuable companies in your own country. So I think that's quite interesting just for general market information, market knowledge and understanding, and it's free of charge. So definitely have a play around with it. And lastly, of course, we should also remember the apps we have on our phone that we actually use to invest our money, right? The stockbrokers, because they also give you some really good insights that, mostly it's free of charge, that it comes with the app, right? So you can get, for example, on Trading 212, which is one of my favorite apps that you can use, you get all the information over here, just scroll around. It's very intuitive. And honestly, most likely use those apps anyways to do your stock trades, to see how a portfolio is doing. So why not use them for stock research, right? And some of them are better than others. Once again, Trading 212 keeps it very user-friendly, I would say. You see the most important things. You can click on more ratios if you wanted to get deeper insights into it. But basically, financials is there, some of the graphs. So it's very simple, obviously. That's why I still use some of the other websites. But if that's all you need, then that's perfect, right? Another great one is Lightyear, which I like. And once again, it gives you really basic but great and powerful market insights. Even small things like, is the market open right now? I can click into this. I can see the market is closed and it will only open in 3 hours, because sometimes you want to trade a stock, but you can't. And then you will see, actually it's still closed. You can see the timing if there's a public holiday. So it makes it very simple, which some of the website may not necessarily give you. Again, your investments, how much it is, how much is appreciated, some of the key metrics, analyst ratings. For this, I actually prefer Lightyear. It makes it very simple to use. The cool thing with Lightyear is you can even listen to the earnings call. So if I click the button over here, I start listening to the CEO and the management board talk about the last earnings. I mean, that's amazing. You can close your phone and go for a walk and listen to the company leaders reporting on the earnings. So really, really powerful. I like that. Yeah, you see the upcoming events, some news. So in that way, actually, Lightyear is probably one of my favorite tools to do stock research on the go in an app. But as I said, there are other options out there. I also use interactive brokers for stock trading, but for me, it's just too overwhelming. So that's why I prefer those two if I just wanted to have some easy, digestible information on the go. And if you haven't signed up to either Lightyear or Trading 212, then use my link in the description below and you'll get a free bonus share to get you started. Right, with this, we come to the websites that are mostly free to use, but they also do offer a paid component, which can make the experience and insights substantially better. Now, the first one is Seeking Alpha, and that's really my favorite. I've been using the website for many years now. I started off on the free plan, and the free plan is great. I mean, you don't have to pay for it. It really offers a lot of information and insights into a particular stock. Let me just pull up Apple over here to have a full Apple to Apple comparison. So you see here, for me, it's really perfectly set out. Now, obviously, I have a whole dashboard over here, so I don't have to go into any of the subheadings. I see everything that is important right here on one dashboard, so I like that. I can easily change the graph, and for me, that's one of the easiest and best way about it. I can just click over here. Let me just zoom in a little bit and say, for example, 5 year. Boom, I will know the stock went up by 331%. How about year to date? Okay, it dropped by 2.5%. So that's really, really nice to see. I see short interest, which is something very important. If that number is very high, let's say 5%, it means a lot of people are betting against the company. So I never want to invest in a company with a high short interest. I get some really nice news. The analysis are really, really good. Honestly, these are basically Seeking Alpha authors, people that sign up to the platform and give their own opinion, and they have some really good points. And once again, some of them are sell, some of them are buy. So you can see everybody has their own opinion, but by reading some sell articles, some buy articles, I can form my own opinion rather than being biased by some analyst who I don't even know. So I quite like that. Even the comments here are from people who signed up to the platform and who are real investors. So I quite like it. It's not just some Twitter spammers who give their random opinion, but really some good insights. Now on the free plan, obviously some of those numbers are locked behind the paywall. So you can see, let's say up to 2 or 3 or 5 years, I believe. But if you want to have more data, then it's usually locked behind the paywall and you have to pay for it. So as I said, in my case, I pay for it with my own money, and honestly, it's worth it for me, absolutely, because I use this website pretty much every single day, even just to get some ideas. The articles are great to look up a company. One of my favorite things to look out for is the momentum tab over here. And then I just go and scroll down over here, and then I'm going to click the total return versus the S&P 500. Now, if I click, for example, over the last 10 years, which you wouldn't have on the free plan, I think you only have 5 years, I can see the comparison between Apple or any company of my choosing. I could add another company if I wanted to, and then basically see how it did versus the S&P 500, the market, so to say, right? And I can really see, boom, immediately how it did. And that's so powerful. And it splits it up into 2 parts. You have the price comparison, but also the total return, because total return includes the dividend. Some of them, they only compare the price, but I want to factor in the dividend as well, because I buy a lot of dividend paying stocks. That's a really powerful tool that I use really a lot. And even for dividends, it's one of the best websites to give you deep insights into that. For example, the dividend growth, which is something I always look at. If I go down over here, get some deep insights, some ratings also, I can see immediately, okay, dividend growth, a little bit slow, I can see that. It makes it very visually appealing. and then I can click on the last 10 years and just see visually how it worked. How did the dividend develop on a simple graph? And so many websites don't do that. So for me, that alone is so powerful and definitely worthwhile to pay. Now, as I said, they do have a pay plan available. If you want to check it out, use my link in the description below. Usually you will get some discount with my link as well as a free trial. So check it out, nothing to lose, but honestly, I paid for it myself, and for me, it's definitely worth it. Next up, we have another news source that I like quite a lot to read. Honestly, I would never pay the full price for it because it's quite expensive, but luckily I got it free of charge as part of my Revolut membership. So I'm on the Revolut Ultra plan, but I think even on some of the lower plans, you get access to Financial Times. And this I purely use for news research. For stock research, it's not the best, but just to keep up to date with news, it's quite nice. I like it. Usually, if you don't have access to it, you can read maybe 1 or 2 articles for free, but then all those articles for the month will be behind the paywall. So in my eyes, as I said, I wouldn't pay for it out of my own pocket, but as it comes as part of my Revolut plan, I really like it. And honestly, I use it on a daily basis to stay on top of news. And as I said, it's just another news source, right? I really like to have different news sources because some people say, yeah, it's biased, it's UK news. And once again, it just is one piece of the puzzle. So altogether, for me, I like the website. It's definitely one of the few websites that I read on a daily basis. Now, another website that I recently came across is quite interesting. Now, a lot of the information here is sadly hidden behind the paywall, but it has a really interesting and unique angle. For example, if I look up Apple over here, it really pulls some interesting metrics that I haven't seen any other website kind of do. So obviously you get all the usual information that you would see everywhere else. But then over here on the left, you can see some really interesting things. For example, I can see job posts, right? So if you invest into a less known company, I mean, for Apple, it's not really maybe that relevant, but you could see, how many job openings did they have? And if I see all of the numbers going down, less and less and less, that shows me that the companies may be scaling back operations or they're letting a lot of people go, which might be, again, good for profitability in the future, what have you, but it just gives you a different insights. For example, patents over here, I can click on that and see how many patents they have. Now, sadly, again, this is behind the paywall, or at least I have to register and make an account with them. So I don't know how much it will be, but if you wanted to just get different information, you could get that. The same with web page traffic. So quite interesting to look at different things. I can see how many hits it got. So if that number keeps on going down month after month after month, obviously there's an issue with the company, right? So quite interesting. Google ad spend even. Wow, that's interesting. I could look that over here. I don't know where they pull that information. From the Google Ads network. So again, wow, what a number to look at. Again, these are just small pieces of the puzzle, but those might help you in your decision making. For example, lobbying costs. I mean, wow, numbers I never thought of. You can see them over here. Once again, I don't know where they always get those numbers from. Employee rating as well, which if you wanted to, you could pull in. So play around with it, have a look. I don't use it really much myself, but just in the process of making this video, I came across this website, so I thought I'll share this with you guys. Now, another fantastic website is called Simply Wall Street. Has a lot of information, but yeah, tries to make it more visual than some of the other pages we've seen before. So basically, as any other website, you just log in, look for the stock that you want, and then it starts pulling up all the information. It has a nice index over here. You can straight jump to it, whatever you want to see. Otherwise, you can just scroll down. It's all on one page, so it makes it a very nice user experience. Now, obviously, they have a pay plan. I'm not on the pay plan, but it actually gives you quite a lot of insights on the free plan as well. So you can see here various narratives that are out there, the competitors, the historic performance over time. And one thing I really quite like about this, I just noticed they have the timeline, but then connected to the events. So you can see here, the dividend increase, legal issues. You can click into this and get some more information. So it reverts back to the articles. Really nice way how the price charts correlates with the news. So I quite like that. Price volatility is quite nicely displayed. And as you see, very visual. If you're a visual learner, then this website can be really good for you. Overall, yeah, I must say, honestly, for free, you get really some good insights in there. Definitely have a play around with it, but I think you're going to like the website for sure. And as I said, it's just another piece in your investment decision-making process, right? Even this, I quite like where the revenues are coming from, very visually. Now, you might see this number on Wallmine that I've shown you before, but it could be overwhelming. Here, very visually in a graph, I can see, okay, US is the biggest market for them. Great. And that really helps sometimes to just glance at the thing and make a decision based on the graphs rather than having to spend hours and hours reading an earnings report of a company. Definitely worthwhile to check out this website. And the last website that I use on a daily basis, really, I have it also on my phone as an app, is obviously getquin, which is my investment tracker where I integrate all my various brokers and assets. You can see here that I have, and that way I really stay on top of things, because it's one thing to read the news and get stock inside information, but obviously for me, why I invest, I want to see my numbers grow over time, and that makes it very simple. I can see with a click, how my portfolio is developing across different brokers, not having to log in to every single one of them. I can see it on the aggregated tab here. In this case, now I'm in the active brokers account, and then also see how my individual positions are doing, the dividends that are coming. That's always a number, I'm very excited to look at. My dividends are growing. That's nice. What's the next dividend payment that's coming up? I can see all the transactions over here. So that's something, obviously, as an investor, you're very excited to log in and see what's happening. I can also get a deeper insight into the allocation, which regions I'm invested in, and so on. So honestly, that's the website that I probably pull out the most out of all of them. Maybe too much. Sometimes it's good not to look so much into your portfolio, but I quite like it. Now, of course, they do have a pay plan, which is the one I'm on as well. And honestly, I can really recommend it. And if you want to sign up to them, use my link in the description below. And if you do so, you will also be able to follow my portfolio and see what I'm investing in. Well, there you have it. I know it might be a little bit overwhelming. And as I said, I don't use all of them on a daily basis, but I do from time to time check into each of them because I really think it's so important to have the full picture, knowing where you allocate your money to. Now, out of all of them, I mostly use Seeking Alpha, CNBC, Financial Times, getquin, and of course, my various apps that I use to invest in. And if you want to learn more about how I use getquin, then check out this video over here. I'm going to run you through the entire process of how I track my various investments. Thanks a lot for watching. Stay healthy, get wealthy, and to see you in the next one. Ciao.